Hey everyone, welcome back to the channel. This is the second episode, and Durtank's here with,
DJFunk.
and we are going to be talking to you today about our favorite coin game, DApp. This is a piece of the metaverse, has NFTs, is really hitting all the boxes that are a hot topic right now. Beyond that is fun and educational. So DJ Funk, we're not going over a whole overview in this game, but what did we want to talk to our audience about today?
Today we wanted to talk specifically about the gardens, just because Gardening Quest recently went live. It's been kind of the hot topic recently. So first we'll go ahead and we'll click on the gardens and we can go check out the seed box so you can see the returns. And keep in mind, these are APR, not APY.
When we think about our APRs versus APYs, if we're compounding, the APY would be even much higher than this. These are ridiculous APRs.
Yeah.
So as you're scrolling through, I'm seeing some shit like what is XYA? Never heard of it. I'm at least not familiar with Superbad. I know that's some influencer coin, but then we also got some real winners here. Like, so we have pairings against UST, USD, BUSD. That is a lot of locked money. $250 million in the Jewel One pool.
Yeah, and it's got the majority of the rewards per block as well for Jewel. And then we got the USDC pairing, which is also one that's traded a lot. So if you were going to pick a stable coin, I would say probably the USDC pool is the best to pair with Jewel, just because the volume there is much higher. So you're going to also get those trading fees.
Yeah, we have been suffering a huge amount of permanent loss though. And we'll get into that a little more when we talk about some of our strategies. So there is an important aspect about this to talk about. While these APRs seem too good to be true, the truth is that there's a huge amount of it that's being locked up, right? Like when you get these APRs and you're about to claim your rewards, you don't actually get the whole amount that has accrued. Is that correct?
Correct.
Do you want to explain a little more how that works? If you click on that harvest box there, you would bring up a window that you normally get to view the harvest that you have open. We took a screenshot because it doesn't show it when you have this fake out account that we had made just for the video. But really, you get a claim period, right? And what it's telling you is that there's a certain rate where you will have liquid Jewel and you will have locked Jewel. And it talks about blocks and it has this giant number. You could sort of ignore all of that. Basically, there's a block that's supposed to occur every 2 seconds or 2.5 seconds on the Harmony 1 blockchain. But that breaks down to a time frame, which basically says every week they change the locked versus liquid rate of the rewards that you're claiming from the gardening, from the farming that you're doing. So every week you get 2% more liquid rewards and 2% less locked rewards. So it started off at 98.2. So in week 1, when the game came out, you were getting 1,000% interest or something crazy, but you were only getting 2% unlocked, and 98% of it was locked. And every week, the ratio switches and you're getting more liquid Jewel and less locked Jewel. The lock will start to happen, will start to unlock in July of 2022, and it will unlock linearly over the next year. So while you may be looking up in CoinMarketCap or CoinGecko, a huge token supply for Jewel, sort of understand that it's not going to get dumped on the market all at one point. It's not like a normal farm token where it's getting released in these huge draws to have these liquidity generating events. That really, they have this locking mechanism to save the users from being dumped on. So most of the Jewel is locked up that you're getting from those rewards. So if you go back to the seed box, DJ Funk, I think what we could think of now, you see it's 67% is locked later today. This is the 23rd. It'll drop to 65% locked, 35% unlocked. And if you click on the seed box there, what you should do is take that APR that you're looking at and sort of divide by that 1/3 mark. 35% of it's going to be what's unlocked. So if you're looking at super bid there, instead of 836%, you're really getting 270% liquid and another 520% in locked jewel or something like that. And that will change over time as we approach the beginning of July. Huge APRs, interesting token metric to prevent being dumped on. Also important to realize that you only have access to a certain amount of the liquid funds, which are usually still a gigantic rate. Like DJFunk, what pools are you in and what kind of rates are you getting there?
Currently, I'm in the Jewel 1 pool, the Jewel BTC pool, and the Jewel ETH pool. I think my combined APR is almost 700%. It's like just under 700% average.
Which is crazy. Like, where else are you going to get a Bitcoin or an ETH pool that's going to give you APYs like that? So you say you're only really getting a third of it that's liquid, but still that's 200% on a Bitcoin or an ETH pair. That's absurd. That's crazy.
Yeah.
I guess my opinion is sort of like, locked jewel is nice. We'll see if it's worth anything. Looks like it will be. When we first got in, though, I sort of had written it all off. Like, I just envisioned the liquid jewel. Did you have any thoughts about that?
Yeah, I mean, I sort of had the same mindset, but now for me, I mean, obviously, you can't predict market conditions that far ahead, but I think it will have some value in the future.
Yeah, I agree. We do sort of get that it will go down in value as some of it unlocks, unless they could keep onboarding new users, which they have been. This is a highly inflationary token, and the price has just been going up, which is nuts. DJFunk, are we ready to talk about our strategies yet? I know we've been holding out on the listeners for a little bit.
All right, so you and I both sort of talked through different gardening strategies, and these are the 5 that we came up with. So number 1, the long-term believer, compound as soon as possible. The long-term believer, but grow at an optimal liquid rate, compound once per epoch. The tax deferrer, compound, take profit at the new year. The short-term believer, wait until 100% is liquid. And the Jewel Maxi, claim and put in the bank. So what strategy are you currently using?
So I didn't call it out here. I'm probably somewhere in between strategy 1 and 2. So strategy 1 in my mind, the long-term believer, is you want to accumulate as much jewel as you possibly can. You do not care if it's locked, unlocked, where it lives, where it doesn't live. And so as it's profitable in terms of transaction fees on the one network, which are very cheap, you should be compounding as fast as you can. This will get you the most net jewel, but will give the largest portion of it to you locked. So the second one, the long-term believer, but growing at an optimal liquid rate, sort of takes into this account that, like, pretend you claim 1 minute before the epoch ends, right? And if you just waited 1 more minute, 2% more would be liquid. And you go, well, crap, like, if I have less conviction that a year out this is going to be worth anything, then getting more liquid jewel is certainly more valuable than locked jewel. And there's, like, if you could trade them against each other, right, the liquid jewel would be more valuable, worth more than the locked jewel. So you go, okay, so like you wait the minute, right? You wouldn't claim right before the epoch switched. And so you could start to back up that line of thinking and say, so do you claim a day before? You go, wait, for 2%? No, 2% profit in a day. I'll just wait a day. And you go, what about 2 days? That's an additional 1% liquid per day of time, like 1% interest rate per day of time. Like, that's crazy. That's great. Certainly wait. So what I do is strategy 1 for these first 4 days of the epoch. I'm compounding as soon as I can. I have a job, so it's not every, 20 minutes, 30 minutes, but every couple of hours I'll compound. And then the 3 days before the epoch switches, I'll wait and I'll build up a large amount and then claim at the new epoch. And from there, I can compound, I can sell it off if I wanted to take some profit, move it to other things. I can use that money that I've accumulated to buy a hero. So I'm somewhere split between strategy 1 and 2. What about you?
I would say, now that I'm thinking about it, that I would be the longer term believer, because I've been claiming my jewel and purchasing heroes with it. So my strategy has been to try and get the strongest heroes that I can get and level them because I want to be able to play in the game long term. And then also, compounding. And I do keep some in the bank because they have snapshots as well where you get airdrops for stuff. So I think, you want to keep some in the bank if you can.
I think that makes sense. So you're split across a few different strategies, and maybe we talked about 1 and 2 deeply. The tax defer is pretty straightforward, and it depends how much money you have, what you want to be doing. But at this point, this late in the year, selling today, right, you have to pay taxes in April if you're a U.S. resident on that money that you're selling today. So by waiting 7 days, you get to transact in the new year, and then you don't have to pay taxes on that money until April of 2023. The money that you are transacting with, that the taxable portion of it, it's advantageous to wait until the new year to do that, because then you can use that money for further investing for an additional year. You don't have to pay the government as quickly. So there's some amount of we're close to the end of the year. Claiming that income in the new year is advantageous from a tax perspective. You got to balance that against the money could be productive now, right? Like we saw huge interest rates. You claim, put it in the bank now, 7 days of interest on that money worked out to some number, which you do the math on in your own personal situation. And when you claim how much you'd have to pay on that income. Number 4, the short-term believer, this sort of makes the most sense. You say, I don't want any liquid jewel. And if you just literally did nothing and waited until July of 2022, you would, when you hit claim, you could claim 100% of it liquid and do with it whatever you want. And then the jewel maxi is really about avoiding impermanent loss. And DJFunk, do you feel like you've been hit by the impermanent loss hammer?
Yeah, it's been hitting pretty hard, but I mean, it's a good thing, right? I mean, it's impermanent loss in the correct direction.
I guess that's true. That's true. It's not like you have one coin falling faster than one of the other coins.
Yeah.
And based on the pools you're in, do you really feel that bad about ending up with more Bitcoin, more Ethereum?
No, not at all. Or more one. I have plenty of one now.
I hear that. All right. So if you're a listener, let us know which strategy works best for you. We are going to talk about the gardening profession now. So this is where the new content just released. DJFunk, you want to show us what that looks like in the game? And then do you want to tell us a little bit about sort of the formula and your strategies that you're taking as it applies to gardening profession?
All right. So for gardening, for me, I've been taking my best gardening heroes and gardening in the Jewel 1 pool because that's where I have most of my LP tokens. So the biggest share of my LPs is in Jewel 1. And then my other gardening heroes who are still decent but not as good, I have them gardening in the Jewel ETH, Jewel BTC pool. So, and sort of how I arrived to that conclusion is through the formula that Hubert talked about in the Discord yesterday. Durtank, can you explain gardening?
Yeah, so the gardening profession is a little different than the rest of them in that, unlike fishing and foraging where you put a dude in and he was going to get a number of cycles based on his stamina and come back, like if you had the profession, you can get 5 goes at fishing or 5 goes at foraging. If you didn't, you can only get 3 on a full stamina bar. This works on a time lock for gardening. So it will be 12 minutes per amount of stamina you have, or 10 minutes per amount of stamina with the gardening profession. And you really want your character, the NFT that you're putting into the smart contract, to be in there as little time as possible, because the rewards that you get are going to be based on a few things. But one of them is how quickly he comes out of that contract, and then a bunch of the other stats. So it's not like they go out and they fetch these items, you put them in the contract, and they're locked in there, or you can stop it at any point, but time is ticking down and your rewards are based on a function of how long they're in the contract for the gardening, shorter being better. So DJFunk, do you want to tell us a little more about exactly the math behind how this works?
All right, so we have this equation here that Hubert discussed in the Discord yesterday, and it will explain sort of the factors that go into the rewards. And as you can see from the equation, if you look at gene bonus, it's on the denominator, so it's going to have the biggest effect on the rewards. So you want to have a gardener that is focused with the gardening gene. And then also, if you look at wisdom and vitality and gardening skill at the top, gardening skill is going to have a bigger influence over the rewards. And keep in mind that this equation is the rewards per tick. So when you do your own calculations, right, this is the reward that you would get once every 10 minutes. And then, for depending on how much stamina your heroes have after 250 or 260 minutes, you would multiply by that 26 times the 10 minutes to arrive at your final rewards bonus. Another thing that the developers did is when they're calculating these rewards, it's calculated before and after, so people can't game the system and move LP tokens around as well.
The big things that we're taking away from this are that gardening skill matters more than the attributes because they're being weighted the same. There's a 0.1 multiplier times either the wisdom plus vitality or the gardening skill, but the wisdom plus vitality is getting divided by, a huge number, 1,200, whereas gardening skill is only getting divided by 224. So as you work up that gardening skill, that will have a larger impact on your earn rate. And then I kind of disagree with what you were saying about the gene bonus. So the gene bonus is really, it's in the denominator, but it's really only providing a 20% bonus to the overall jewel that you would earn, because there's a denominator here, 43,000, and the gene bonus is set to 0 or 1. It's binary. You either have gardening or you don't have gardening. And when they say you don't have gardening, they just take out 20% of the denominator that they're going to divide the equation through. In my mind, if you are a player like me who's not going to have, I have multiple pools open. I don't have enough NFTs to run my guys through often. I'm not restricted by the amount of runs I have, right? Like I only have a handful of heroes, so I'm going to run them all through the same pool in a day. And just be waiting for stamina recharge. Gardening is far less important because I'm not going to be stacked up by this time metric. And so that 20% bonus matters because you have like a limited number of guys that you could send through. So you want the most efficient guys to go through. But efficiency is just less important to me because I have less guys.
Yeah.
All right. Why don't we go to the next slide? So we put a link to the article that sort of talks through what's going on in more detail. There are a few key takeaways that we had that DJFunk and I were aligned with. The first one being it makes sense to be deep in one pool. That's where you're going to get the most value. So if you are in half a dozen pools with a small amount of money, you will get less jewel from the mining request if you are concentrated in a single pool. With that said, there's possibly better estimated values in some of the smaller pools. So DJFunk, when we had the profession quest up, we could see that like 50% of the rewards were going to the Jewel 1 pool. That was based on the percentage of liquidity from the overall platform. The overall platform has, let's say, $1 billion in liquidity. Half of it is in the Jewel 1 pool, so they put half of the crest rewards for gardening towards that pool. So like I don't have unlimited number of dudes, but I am in multiple pools. So I'm going to put all of my dudes and cycle them through the pool that I think I have the most value in. But I have pools like the Fantom pool that I might be in that's getting, 5% of the rewards, but I'm not going to run guys through that at all because I only have a small amount of funds there. So what we're saying is for the gardening profession, our hypothesis is that there's actually better expected value in pools that people will run less characters through.
Yeah. Yeah. And I mean, you still have to account for the actual individual quest items as the reward also. The markets are still forming for that. So in the short term, they don't really bring too much monetary value. I looked up the price. It was like 0.04 joule per item about. And then also you have a chance of getting a green pet egg. And I know eggs are currently going for around 100 joule.
That's great. So I think that's the item you're really looking for. You're hoping to hit one of these eggs. So if you are a listener, this is just our second episode. Please like, subscribe, leave us a comment telling us what you would like to hear more of. You are going to see some thumbnails at the end of this video linking you to some of our other wonderful content we're creating.